Our topic that we are discussing is bioethics of selective abortion with babies specifically prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome. We'll be looking at the concept of eugenics and current statistics around selective abortion, followed by the models of disability that influence the two sides of this argument. Lastly, we'll discuss the different views and implications for those for and against selective abortion for babies with Down syndrome. The concept of eugenics has been practiced over the course of history in a variety of ways. Broadly, eugenics is the science of improving a human population by controlled breeding to increase the occurrence of desirable, heritable characteristics. This ability to select certain characteristics for your baby in utero through prenatal manipulation can include picking hair color, gender, and more. On a more serious note, advanced prenatal testing can even inform an individual of the chance a baby will be born with a disability, physical and/or mental. The purpose of prenatal testing is to inform a parent and help prepare him or her to make the best healthcare decisions before and after the child is born. However, this practice has since taken other roles, as it also gives a mother the opportunity to decide whether or not she wants to keep her baby. If a mother finds out her baby will be born with Down syndrome, for example, she may make the decision to abort the baby before he or she is even born. It is when you look at prenatal testing through this lens that the question of ethics arises. The issue of selective abortion following an in utero diagnosis of Down syndrome has been argued across a wide spectrum. Bioethics of early pregnancy termination with a potentially disabled baby delves into this issue of what is right or wrong for a woman to decide and what is fair and just for the fetus. While the arguments go back and forth on whether or not it is just to abort a baby prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome, it's first important to take a look at the statistics. 95% of babies that have been tested positive for Down syndrome are aborted for the sole reason that he or she will be born disabled. We can also look at this another way and see that 9 out of 10 babies prenatally diagnosed are aborted following the results of their prenatal testing.
When deciphering whether or not selective abortion with babies diagnosed with Down syndrome in utero is just, several models of disabilities are used. The medical model states that problems faced by people with disabilities are caused by their impairments, with impairment being viewed as a negative health concept along with diseases, disorders, maladies, and so on. In other words, the problems that are associated with a disability are deemed to reside within the individual. If the individual is cured, then these problems will not exist. Evidently, the medical model would support selective abortion with Down syndrome babies. Disability is to be prevented at all costs, cured vigorously, and most importantly, aborted when detected. Those that adhere to the medical model see disability as inherently bad and as something that should be eliminated immediately. On the opposing side, there is a social model of disability. The social model deems disability as a socio-political construction or a product of culture rather than a personal limitation due to a person's impairment. So it is a social discrimination rather than the impairment itself that makes a person disabled. If disability was never socially constructed as a negative, perhaps this entire concept wouldn't even be an issue. Therefore, the social model does not adhere to the concept of selective abortion of prenatally diagnosed Down syndrome babies. Permitting and practicing the selective termination of disabled fetuses amounts with colluding with and even endorsing discrimination against people with disabilities. Permissive regulation of abortion for disabled children only further strengthens the social discrimination that people with disabilities already face. So, with all of this being said, Who is supporting selective abortion for fetuses diagnosed with Down syndrome, and who is against it? Those for abortion believe a woman deserves the choice to decide whether or not to continue the pregnancy after diagnosis. These supporters believe that there is no reason to assume that a woman's choice not to bear a child with Down syndrome implies that she believes such people should not be born or be supported. It simply implies that she does not wish to be a mother to one herself, and in turn wants to get rid of the baby. Abortion in any instance should be based on a right woman to make decisions about their own lives, and basic physical autonomy must be respected. People should not be expected to compromise their own physical integrity for the benefit of another person, even if that person is in utero. So, it is illegitimate to compromise that principle with respect to the fetus in utero as well. Those that adhere to these beliefs find it very unsettling that an argument can be made for placing an imperative on a pregnant woman to remain pregnant against her will. On the other hand, there are many arguments against selective abortion. If one believes that a fetus with a disability can or should be aborted, does that mean that the physical and mental limitations that accompany a Down syndrome baby make the child less human? Those against abortion demand we embrace disability as part of the human experience. The vast majority of people have figured out how to have great lives with disabilities. So how can some babies not even have the chance? The stereotype that people with disabilities are always suffering just isn't true. Pro-life supporters even have gone so far as to create laws against aborting a child that has been prenatally diagnosed with a disability. In 2013, North Dakota became the first state to prohibit abortions after detection of either a genetic abnormality or the potential for a genetic abnormality. In 2016, Republican Governor Pence created a law to prohibit abortions of fetuses performed solely for the reason that the fetus has been diagnosed with a disability or has a potential diagnosis of a disability. Such laws affirm the value of all human life.
But no matter what decision a woman makes regarding her pregnancy with a potentially disabled fetus, there will be several implications thereafter. One implication is that by ending the life of a baby with Down syndrome, there's a risk of wiping out this group of people altogether. Those against abortion find this concept to be a slippery slope towards genocide, predicting the eventual disappearance of people with Down syndrome as a group completely. For example, in Iceland, 100% of fetuses diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted, thus eliminating this group from Iceland completely. According to NBC News, studies have shown the following. 99% of people with Down syndrome are happy with their lives. 97% of people with Down syndrome like who they are. 96% of people with Down syndrome like how they look. Statistically, the vast majority of people with Down syndrome are happy, satisfied, and affectionate members of society. Something that couldn't be said of people born without the disability. This trend of prenatal screening for and eventual elimination of people with disabilities scares people. What if they develop a screening test for autism? Should we be able to abort these fetuses as well? What if a screening for mental health issues is developed? Should a person who might be bipolar or depressed just be eliminated without a chance? On the other hand, there are implications to having and raising a child with Down syndrome that must be accounted for. Caring for a child with a disability brings multiple challenges to parents, such as additional financial burdens for treating their child's condition, dealing with the child's potentially problematic behavior, and social stigma associated with disabilities. For parents, having a disabled child may increase stress, take a toll on mental and physical health, make it difficult to find appropriate and affordable child care, and affect decisions about work, education and training, having additional children, and relying on public support. It may be associated with guilt, blame, or reduced self-esteem. It may divert attention from other aspects of family functioning as well. The out-of-pocket costs of medical care and other services may be enormous. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the cost of raising a child without disabilities to the age of 18 is around $240,000. But that figure can quadruple for a child with special needs. Most of that increase is due to the need to access special medical services on top of the expected expenditures of food, clothing, and entertainment. The most recent study to tackle these costs found that people affected with disabilities will spend around $10,000 annually in out-of-pocket costs just from medical services. All of these potential effects could have repercussions for the quality of the relationship between the parents, their living arrangements, and future relationships and family structure. Having a disabled child may also affect parents' allocation of time and financial resources to their healthy and unhealthy children, their parenting practices, their expectations of healthy siblings in terms of achievement, responsibility, and short and long-term contributions to the household, and the siblings' health and development. Finally, having a disabled child in the family may affect the contributions of time and financial resources on the part of the child's grandparents or other extended family members, the relationships of those individuals to the core family, and the financial, physical, and emotional well-being to those family members. However, on the positive side, it can broaden horizons, increase family members' awareness of their inner strength, enhance family cohesion, and encourage connections to community groups or religious institutions.
It is evident that when looking at cases of selective abortion for fetuses diagnosed with Down syndrome, there is no right answer. Does the mother have the right to take action, or does this diagnosis make the baby any less worthy of living? The beauty of bioethics is we may never know.